Welcome to our web exclusive. I'm Mike Montecalvo along with Eyewitness News analyst Lieutenant General Reginald Centracchio. Big story, General, locally obviously is what happened on Monday at TF Green Airport. We found out that a father and a 4-year-old were trying to get on an airplane, but TSA officials found a gun, ammunition hidden inside 3 stuffed animals. He eventually was allowed to get back on the plane and leave. It goes to show you, and you've talked about this now for several years here on the show, that you can smuggle weapons into anything, and putting some of the weapons in Mickey Mouse pretty much summed it up.
You know, I think this is a message that needs to be accepted by TSA. The more complex efforts and the more multifaceted efforts to try to circumvent existing technology is okay. But I believe that we still have to be concerned about the very simple approach to trying to get something on board, such as this. You know, it could very well just have been overlooked as maybe a toy gun or something like that, because it happened to be with some toys. So I think the point here is that TSA really needs to look at ensuring that we don't forget the basics and we start concentrating too much on the complex issues.
Well, they're calling this a domestic issue. The man was detained for about 3 hours, then he was allowed to be released. Is that protocol at that point?
I tell you, that one amazed me a little bit. Normally he would be taken away to find out exactly what his intentions were, and perhaps there was some other follow-on things that he was doing. But to be allowed to get on the aircraft, that one really amazed me.
Well, the TSA officials said that the public was never in danger, but we interviewed a lot of passengers after that, and they were kind of surprised because of the fear of, you know, someone trying to sneak something onto the plane.
Exactly. You know, part of terrorism, a big part of terrorism, has to do with the psychology of it. Not necessarily the physical damage that could result, but the aspects of being fearful of something. And that's exactly what we see here. No one was harmed, but it's the psychology of it, knowing that someone says, oh, wow, he tried to do this, what else could he be doing? And I think that's the point that was being made by the several people that I saw you interview.
Now, it was picked up on an X-ray machine, but it also goes to show, probably lend more support now for full-body scanners when something like this occurs, correct?
Absolutely. You know, those that would shy away from full-body scanners and other technology have to be aware that you may not want this done on you, but the bottom line is the majority has to be protected, and that's exactly what the technology is affording us right now. Full body scans and the other imaging that we have clearly has prevented planes from going down on occasion. In addition to this teddy bear episode, I'm sure we're going to be talking about eventually segueing into the new technology as it relates to underwear bombing. That once again has surfaced. It has in fact escaped the normal technology we have, and TSA itself has recognized that we need to look at more ways and means to be able to detect something that does not have any metallic parts to it.
Well, the FBI, by the way, wants to expand that terrorism surveillance. We'll get to that in just a second. General, this is not the first time something like this has happened at TF Green. For example, 3 times in 2010, 2011, TSA security officials detected some type of firearms of someone trying to board an aircraft. Do we see that? We know those 3 times, and obviously we know what happened on Monday. Could there be other times that we do not know something is going on?
I think that's a fair observation. You know, we don't have access to everything that happens every single time. I would suggest that perhaps there have been, maybe for different reasons it wasn't made known to the public, maybe because it happened to be part of something else, and they didn't want to compromise that particular piece of information. So to answer your question, perhaps I wouldn't dismiss it at all.
Does it matter if the gun is a replica or to be assembled to fire? Does it really matter either way?
No, I think the fact that a gun is there sends a message out to somebody. Even if it's a facsimile or a toy or something, the message is there that someone is trying to make a statement and trying to circumvent security. Perhaps a test. You know, if that weapon would have got through, okay, there's a test that somebody wasn't paying attention to some very basic principles of seeing something and not doing anything about it.
Well, tonight the FBI on Wednesday night is asking Congress for the authority to expand the anti-terrorism surveillance after uncovering al-Qaeda's latest plot to blow up a U.S.-bound airliner. We're finding a lot more about that terror plot that unraveled. It was a double agent posing as a suicide bomber. What do we learn from something like this?
I think we learned that absolutely the need of having someone placed into the center of a particular cell is absolutely essential. Double agents have been around since day one, and I think you'll probably see that expand. Of course, they're taking their lives into their hands if they're caught, but at the same time, it's a very viable source of having information and making sure that we curtail an attempt for any kind of terrorism, which is relatively new to our efforts trying to involve other countries, and having other countries accept the fact that we have CIA operatives in their country, knowing it and trusting them that they're not going to uncover something for us.
Okay. Moving on, General, we know $110 billion is going to be cut, automatic cuts to the defense budget. Harry Reid is still supporting that in the Senate. But we're finding out today the House Armed Services Committee is pressing on to actually add money back into President Obama's budget. So where do we stand here? You have the Senate trying to cut and the House trying to add back in.
I think they'll be successful in reference to the $88 billion that they're talking about for the war effort in Afghanistan. Whether in fact they're successful on increasing it by some $4 or $5 billion over the president's budget and being able to counteract the automatic cuts over the next 10 years is questionable. I think what we're looking at here is putting everything on a priority basis and still maintaining our readiness and our capability for our ability to thwart off an attack on the United States. That will always win. If they can prove the fact that we've cut so low and taken down the military and taken away our weapon systems, they'll win. They'll be able to put money back in. Whether those automatic cuts actually happen or not is anybody's guess. I don't think they'll happen. I think it's just a matter of showing that if you don't make a decision, we're going to make it for you. And I think the Congress is probably going over that.
What happens with those automatic cuts now? We know the drawdown, Iraq, Afghanistan, but Syria, Libya, Egypt, unrest everywhere in the Middle East. What happens if something occurs in Iran, for example? Does money get put back into that budget, or do we have to wait for the next fiscal year?
A good example of that is Pakistan. With this budget now, one of the considerations is they're placing different criterion on those countries who are receiving aid, and specifically in the case of Pakistan, for them to receive this money, before it had no ties to it. Now there are specific requirements that you must cooperate with us on counterterrorism. And I think you're going to see the same thing. So in essence, you're putting money into a program, but you're getting help at the same time, rather than just giving countries money for the essence of buying them, so to speak.
This is going to drag on?
I think so.
Okay. Al-Qaeda's leader, and we're hearing in the last couple of weeks how weak Al-Qaeda is now compared to what it was 9/11. They are urging Muslims around the world to take revenge against the United States for the burning of the Quran, holy books, in Afghanistan. Is this an attempt by them to show that they're still forceful, they're still relevant?
I think so. But on the other hand, we heard Brennan last week talk about although Al-Qaeda is not as well organized, it's still a very dangerous organization. And we can't ever put it aside as being not relevant. And I think this statement that was made recently is an attempt to embolden them again and to build up what they used to be when bin Laden was around.
And how much force do you think they have by doing something like that?
I think we're always concerned about the general message, but we're more concerned about individuals as acting as lone wolves, so to speak, to be able to take that message and want to be part of it on an individual basis. That's really the scary part, because you have no ability to detect that until after it's happened.
As of this taping on Wednesday, we did have some breaking news. President Obama has openly endorsed now same-sex marriage. For the first time, he's actually come out and said he endorses that. How does that affect the military?
Well, I hope that we don't get wrapped around the axle with the understanding that same-sex marriage, in my opinion, I think would be detrimental to the military in reference to its readiness. Although we eliminated the don't ask, don't tell, it didn't give us very many problems to this point. But when you openly have two soldiers in a military uniform acting as a married couple, I think that we're just not ready for that. Our culture is not ready for it.
When would we be ready for something like that?
I'm not sure. 50 years ago, we didn't look at interracial marriage. Now that's not an issue today. In 25, 30 years ago, we talked about not being able to join the military if you were gay. That's not the problem now. I don't know when it will be, but I don't know. I know it's not right now.
And how does it affect things on the battlefield, so to speak? Let's say if you are in Iraq or Afghanistan.
You know, to have the enemy or our general society look at our military as being, I hate to put this in the category of trying to place an image that is not really the right one, but when you have two combat soldiers who are married, and you know that, and then in the midst of a group that does not accept it, it cannot be good for readiness. And I think that's probably a very general statement, nevertheless I think appropriate.
And finally, we have to kind of recap what happened last Wednesday over in Woonsocket and the War Memorial. You had mentioned that 1,000 people, you expected 1,000 people to show up. You were right on.
The state police gave us a count of 1,800 that attended, and that was in place, not to mention those that came and left on a sporadic basis.
Obviously, the atheist group wants that cross removed from in front of the fire headquarters in Woonsocket. You had 1,800 people, obviously, most of them, I assume, supporting that. Where do you go from here at this point? Did you get your message across, basically?
I think we get the message across. I was very happy to see that the mayor took a stand and that the monument would stay where it is.
That's a change. He had talked about moving that
He originally talked about having some options. In my discussions with him, I said that the rally was not there for that purpose. It was there for one reason, to keep it as it is, where it is, on public land, because it's a monument, and the cross denoted the faith of those soldiers and the families of those soldiers, and it was not a profession of faith. It was a profession of faith for them, but not an endorsement by the city or any community.
What about the fireman's prayer?
Fireman's prayer, too. That's their prayer. It's been around for a very long time. It does not profess you need to believe what they're saying. It's what they believe, and that's the message. It's what they believe. It's what the majority of people want, and therefore I don't think we should have to succumb to one individual who's offended by it. And as much as I respect that, I certainly respect those that have no religion whatsoever, but that doesn't mean to say I should subscribe to that.
You think this is just going to go away now at this point?
I would hope that we would see as the city would respond back to the Freedom from Religion Foundation, and I think what you'll eventually see is if there is someone that actually put in a complaint, he or she'll have to come forward. Otherwise, I think it'll just take a sideline for now.
Okay,
and I'm hopeful that would be the case.
Okay, General Centracchio, thank you for your comments. Thanks for watching.